The content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Is it my story, your story, his story, her story, Jane's story, Joe's story? Is it just an allegory? Show's about to start and we still don't have a name for it. Ba, 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 ba. It's a long story.
Hi, I'm Anna from Colorado, and I wanted to give a huge shout out to my caregivers, especially my boyfriend and my mom, also my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad, my siblings. There's so many people that have helped me over the years, but those are some major contributors just for all they have done in helping keep me company in the hospital and keeping my spirits high, taking care of me when I can't, and picking up the slack when I am just not feeling up to normal duties of life, and just everything that they do. I know it's a hard job and can take a lot of time and effort, and I just really appreciate it.
Dear
Thank
Chaz,
you.
thank you for doing such an amazing job being my caregiver for the first time since being together. I know it was your first rodeo with transplant and crazy health scares, and it wasn't easy. It was stressful and scary to say the least, but you always managed to cheer me up and make me laugh. Dear Lima, thank you again for being the most incredible sister someone could have. Not only were you my caregiver for my first transplant, you were also there to help me for my second. Forever grateful for your selfless decision to take care of me. Love you always.
I'm Mike. I want to say thank you to my team, both of my kids who are tremendously supportive, and to my lovely wife who always has my back and keeps an eye on my exposures, even when I may not pay as close attention as she does, and will help me do risk mitigation. Also, we have a fun game called If You Don't Put Your Blue Pill Away, which is the nightly Trikafta pill. She hides it on me. That's always fun when I open it up to take it and find that it's missing, only for her to say, "Hey, dummy, you forgot to put it away." But I love her dearly, and these are
I'm
my
Sarah
three
Joy from
supports.
Atlanta,
Thank
and I
you.
just wanted to say a special thanks to all the caregivers of my life. My mom, who has been there with me through everything. She has held my hand through over 100 surgeries, hospitalizations, different procedures, needle sticks. She is someone that I get to share a lot of joy with, but I have also gotten angry with and cried with, and she has loved me every step of the way. And to my dad, who has gone to work even when I was in the hospital or having surgery, just to provide that insurance that is so needed for me to get the care that I need. For my brothers, for always making me laugh. And to my fiance, who my dad likes to say that he and my mom were drafted into the CF world when I was born, but Todd walked in and signed up, and that takes a special heart.
I want
And I
to
love
thank
them
the
all.
caregivers who have kept me alive, those who have stayed up through sleepless nights monitoring every cough and fever, and the ones who made impossible decisions when the world felt too fragile. The kind of love, the kind that sacrificed comfort for survival, is something I carry in my lungs in every breath. To the caregivers who were loyal, not just to my health, but to me as a person, thank you for teaching me how to trust and how to be cared for. You showed me that being loved and being alive can mean the same thing. You helped shape me into a secure, hopeful, and happy person, even when my body was complicated. I hope you know the depth of what you gave.
Wow. Those messages were incredible. And to our CF community listening, thank you for sharing those heartfelt messages and ending with the last message whose words really stuck with me. Making impossible decisions when the world felt too fragile, and the kind of love that sacrificed comfort for survival, and how you helped shape me into a secure, hopeful, and happy person, even when my body was complicated. I think that really says it all about what caregivers do for us. And I can't wait for this conversation to start. And I know it's going to be a tough one, a meaningful one, emotional and rewarding, all of it. And before we get started, and as we usually do, I would like to say hello and welcome my dear friend who makes this podcast possible. And I want to acknowledge and thank you, Andrea, for your rendition of It's a Long Story. You really blew us away and gave us something to think about, which now I realize you haven't done it. So you really have to try to
Hold
do
on.
that.
Wait. Take
So we
two on this. I thought I was going to
let's
sing
see
here.
if you actually do blow us away.
Try opera.
It's a long story.
So you did blow us away, and and you did give us something to think about. Think about like how we want to maybe rethink those. I'm just kidding. But okay, but first up, please welcome, help me welcome Lauren, our newly engaged co-host, deep into wedding planning and currently discovering that the aging process accelerates with loss of telomeres every time someone asks you about the wedding, but she remains calm, poised, and at least pretending everything is fine. Hello, Lauren.
Hello, I'm definitely pretending everything is fine, super excited. I also want to make a comment that you were singing Pink Pony Club before this. So if I start
Oh,
randomly dancing during this podcast, I'm so sorry. It's stuck in my head and I can't help it anymore.
okay. Well, I'm sorry that you mentioned that to the listeners that that was happening.
I want everyone to
But
know your favorite song.
it was oddly playing in the lobby. So, it seemed funny and like just stuck with me. And then we'd like to introduce Andrea, our producer, marketing mastermind, and who stays eternally young by learning new marketing and podcasting tricks faster than the rest of us, like she's downloading data like Trinity from the Matrix, if you get that. And
Yeah.
also our unofficial elephant whisperer, who is trying to book our next recording session in Nanyuki, Kenya, Andrea Becker.
Absolutely. Let's go down to the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust and have the elephants sing the chorus.
When we were there in Kenya and the elephants were making noise, it sounded like it was coming from their trunk. We found out that it was actually coming from the other side. It was really great. They make a really great farting sound.
Fun
You can
fact,
say butt on this podcast.
We can
We've
say
done a
butt.
whole
We can
like
say
sex
butt.
episode. We can do butt.
Coming
fun
out of their
fact,
ass. They're like lots of farting and gas coming out of their butt.
that
So
sounds
Perfect.
anyway,
made up for the fact by they're so cute.
they're so cute. They're
They're so
adorable.
cute.
So, and there's really no segue to saying welcome again to the caregiver episode. And you just heard some messages from our listeners, and you'll hear more of them at the end of the podcast as well. And we're grateful to the amazing people with CF out there who share their appreciation for the heroes who have attempted to bring balance to the CF universe for their loved ones and who continue to face those folks continue to face challenges living with CF in ways that we hope to discover here on our podcast. I would like to now introduce you to our two amazing guests. We know from the literature that almost as much as people with CF, caregivers and loved ones helping people with CF suffer from the treatment burden, time demands, social isolation, and financial impact, and its impact on occupations, burnout, and compassion fatigue. And a literature review of this topic from a 2022 article by Connor Daly and others, they found a total of 889 articles that reported humanistic burden and 310 that reported economic burden for caregivers of people with CF. And the greater the disease burden, the greater the caregiver impact on depression, anxiety, and occupational productivity. So that's what the literature says. And so now I would first like to say hi to Pam Richards, mother of a daughter who has CF and a wife of 37 years who was truly tested as her daughter eventually required both a lung and liver transplant. She's also a gifted writer and journalist. Welcome, Pam, to our podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. We are so grateful. We are so grateful. Our next guest is Shannon, who is a friend and spouse of an incredible man with CF, who is a world-renowned artist, Dylan Mortimer, the recipient of 2 double-lung transplants. And Shannon is from upstate New York and Rochester and holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts in professional ballet dancing and modern dance and loves to travel. And since becoming a mother of 2 boys, now focused on being a Pilates and fitness instructor. Welcome to the podcast, Shannon.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
It is really amazing to have you both here. And today, while in clinic, I was talking to some folks and asking their caregiver who's in the room what questions they might have. So I'll maybe start with their question. And their question was, how do you, both of you, have a daughter and a spouse who has undergone lung transplant, and the time leading up to that and afterwards is probably the most demanding and trying time. And the question is, how did you both manage that? How did you manage that with your children, with your jobs? What did you do? So Pam, maybe we can start with you.
Okay. For me, it became a singular purpose when she got to that point. It's like everything narrowed down to just get her to be well enough for transplant. And those months before we knew she was going to get the transplant, I think were the most difficult, or that she would be considered for transplant, because you knew you're either watching the end of your daughter's life or you're watching the beginning of something really miraculous. And then I think the biggest problem I had was guilt that I was, when she was so sick, was forcing her to do these things, to make her do, you've got to walk. I don't feel like walking. You have to walk. No, I'm not going to walk. All the time I'm pulling her legs off the bed and getting her up, and we're walking. And guilt for not being with my sons. I have 3 sons. And guilt for my husband having to travel back and forth from Atlanta to Durham every weekend. And it was just amazing how much guilt there was. But like I said, the closer it got to transplant, the more singular the focus, and everything else just fell away. And I know I was tired. I know I went through things, but I just remember, take the next minute, take the next 5 minutes. There was no thinking long term, at least for me.
And how old were your boys at the time?
My 2 older sons were in their late 30s, and my baby was 28 at the time of her transplant. So, yeah, it was tough.
That's so
And
hard.
we have grandchildren. At that time, we only had 1 grandchild, and my son had adopted him, and he was 3 years old, and it was like we were introduced to him, and then we had to leave him after 2 months. And, going to be gone for a year, they said. And there's just a lot of emotions you deal with when someone is that sick. I have this ability, whether it's good or bad, to push through, power through something and fall apart later. It's like once it's all done, then I fall apart,
And we're gonna dive into that a little bit, but you have to drop like everything. Shannon, how about you?
Probably a little similar. I had a singular focus with Dylan, but then I had my 2 sons were 5 and 7 during the first transplant, and then 7 and 9 for the second transplant. So I think what parallels both transplants was I needed to rely on something more than just myself. Like, we had a huge faith community in both New York City and in Kansas City, where, the first transplant took place in St. Louis, but we were living in Kansas City at the time. But it was the community came around us and surrounded us both in both cities that we had become a part of, because I remember the very first transplant, the month before he was even listed. He was in the hospital for over a month, and I had to call the ambulance one night because I was sleeping, and then I woke up. I thought I was having a heart attack, but it was an anxiety attack. I was still teaching Pilates and taking care of our kids, and Dylan's so much of a best friend, so we were helping each other. But the way that we got through both was basically I had to incorporate my faith in God, because that was the only thing, honestly, that got me through it, because otherwise I would have fallen apart, because people all the time looked at me and said, you're so strong. And I'm like, actually, I'm really not strong. Like, I'm relying on so many people, but people, as far as the circle was close. I didn't let so many people into my heart, but they were like people picking up kids from school. There was everything from the physical needs. People were dropping off food. People were getting Christmas presents. They bought us a tree, so we were
Oh,
just very,
wonderful.
yeah, it was a lot of beautiful community.
Go ahead, Pam.
When I say singular focus, you're right. Faith is the driving thing. If you don't have that, you can't look forward enough. There had to be a better day, and it was going to come. Whether she passed away, I believe she would go to a better place. And if she stayed, she would be so much better. And I can remember her going in the elevator doors for transplant and thinking that very thought and thinking, this is it. It's going to go one way or the other, because she was so sick. At the time, she was the sickest person to have a transplant at Duke.
At Duke, yeah. Now, I was going to say, both of you obviously are incredibly strong people. And I would say, Shannon, you are very strong. It's just that we all need to depend on our communities and our friends. I mean, we can't do this alone. But you said something, and I want to segue. You mentioned that Dylan is your best friend, and he's your best friend, and he's also, someone who needs your support and as a caregiver. Now, Andrea, I know that this is something that you also experience. I was wondering if you want to dive into that with Shannon about the role of friend and caregiver and spouse and.
Yeah, sure. Well, for those of you who are listening who don't know, I have CF and had a transplant 27 years ago. My first caregivers, shout out to mom and dad, who were amazing. And, I've been so lucky to, have so many years post-transplant that my parents have aged. And I got married, and my caregiving switched to my best friend, who's my husband. But we, over the years, we've been together 20 years, and he wasn't even with me through my first transplant. We have switched. There are times with CF where you have good days, good weeks, bad weeks, good years, bad years, and you're sliding back and forth between, caregiver and patient and husband and wife. And sometimes it can be confusing, it can be stressful, because I think there are times when you're in non-alignment. Shannon, is this something that rings true for you? How did you navigate the different roles that you had to take over the time of your being together, whether it was caregiver and patient or husband and wife, or were you able to fuse them?
I think we all have wonderful gifts, and we all have purpose in life. And for some reason, it's a fusion to me. Like, I never felt like, oh, I'm caregiver role, oh, I'm mom role, or oh, I'm wife role. It's just all, to me, it was all encompassing. It's like I'm me, and it just flowed really easily. And it might be because Dylan is so strong, I didn't have to tell him to take his medicine. I got to help him on the journey to recovery with nutrition, figuring out what to eat, how to exercise, all that stuff. But even then, I always felt, I think the connection Dylan and I have is just so deep. We're spirit mates, soul mates, all the mates, and the love that we have for each other is so intense and robust that, and vice versa, not just me to him, but him to me too, that kind of just feels like breathing. It literally feels like just breathing. It's that natural.
So there's never any time when you're like, well, I wish he would take his meds at different times, or, you guys are in total agreement, or if you aren't, you have a way to negotiate.
Yeah, so I guess he's such an adult. He was an adult, so he had CF all of his life, and I met him when he was 25 or 24, and so he had the regimen. He was like you. He's very compliant, very hardworking. So I never had to take that kind of role. I think we definitely have disputes and arguments, but It's more of like in child rearing and that stuff. But we're like, and finances and all that stuff. But as far as like CF things related, the only times that we had, to be honest, the only times we had parts where we weren't on the same page was when his extended family got involved and his extended family intervened, and particularly his mother and father, and that made it pretty hard because it was like it put him in a tough situation and also me. So I think during the transplants, post and pre, both of them, it was more of not between Dylan and I, but like his extended family. It's all good now. There's lots of forgiveness, lots of water under the bridge, lots of healing. But that was rough. I think that's the way I could answer it.
My
And-
parents were like, bye-bye, thanks, Shannon.
Stephen got it. But Pam, I was just going to ask, and maybe just to restate it for Pam. I mean, is there a time where Sarah was, I need my mom. I don't need a caregiver. I don't need another doctor. Is there a time where like that clash happened because of that, that tough relationship? I mean, obviously for Shannon, it's all fused together, but that's not always the case.
We've always been close. I wouldn't say it's clingy. We just kind of, the mother-daughter connection has always been pretty good, as well as the caregiver relationship. And the only time I can remember Sarah rebelling at all is when she first went away to college. And I think all kids do that, but it doesn't mean life or death, And for Sarah, she just stopped taking her medicine. She stopped doing her treatment. And it was only for about 2 or 3 weeks. But, I confronted her, said, I know you're not doing it. And I just packed a bag and moved into her dorm room. And
how did that go? I mean, I know that she accepted it, but I mean, having your mom in your dorm room, I mean, Lauren, like, what would you say to that?
I would probably lose my mind. I love my mother. She's my best friend, but we definitely have similar personalities, but we also have very different personalities. So I don't think I could handle that, honestly.
Well, what we did is when I arrived, we just said I was coming up for a little stay and to visit, and see how the conditions were and that kind of thing. And surprisingly, her group of friends, were right there, and they were accepting of me and everything else. And after they realized just how serious it was if she didn't do these things, and that only took maybe 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that. I felt comfortable, leaving, and she was happy for me to go too. But it was a reset that, yes, you're an adult, and yes, you can do these things. But if you have to have me here to make you do the things to keep you well, then I'm going to burst in on the party.
My dad used to barge into my room when I first got diagnosed with the diabetes, and he would just kind of jab me in the leg, give me insulin, and walk out the door. And so it was a rough few months living with my parents after that happened. But we laugh about it now, and it's great. He always threatens every once in a while because they all watch my glucose go up and down. And so I'll get texts, I'll get calls, but they can't barge in my room anymore. So I at least have that going for me.
Sounds a little different. Shannon, any of that resonate with you?
Not too much,
Yeah.
just because Dylan's pretty driven. He's pretty, and he has a wonderfully intense personality. So when he goes for something, he goes for it. And myself being being an example, because when we first met, it was we met at church, and he was like, instantly, he's like, I knew I was going to marry her, and once I reached out, it was over. Like, he just pursued me and called me from New York, and I was in Kansas City every night. That's just his personality. Like, he's like, once he sets his eyes on something, like, he's just all in.
Now that's Sarah too. That's Sarah. She wanted that degree. She wanted to live away. She wanted a job. She had gotten an apprenticeship. And she was also editor of the school newspaper, or one of them, And she just there was so much drive. It's like, I'm running out of time to do all the things I want to do. And I don't think she ever believed she would come out the other side of transplant. And I always think that's why she pushed herself to exhaustion, really, And when she had to drop out of school, working on her master's, and several other things, just had to fall away, the internship, all of those things. That was so hard for her. It's, just what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I can't go to work. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And yes, you are going to do those things, and we'll be doing them after transplant.
Something you said triggered a memory. I think I'm understanding more of the question fully because there haven't been too many times that Dylan has been like low, or like having hopelessness just because of our faith. But there have been times, like 2 or 3 throughout both transplants, where I was definitely I would say my role, instead of like physically caregiving, although I clapped on him and we did the clapping, we did the shaking, we did the massage, lots of physical work, but more so it was more of the mental and emotional, and just being there with him. And for Dylan and I, we were just praying a lot together, and I was encouraging him and he was encouraging me. But there were some pretty low times right before he was listed at the it's in Kansas City Hospital. He, the lowest of lows, his lungs were bleeding out. He was coughing up a gallon of blood or more. And they had to make that split decision to transport him from Kansas City to St. Louis in an ambulance. And that was probably the lowest day of the first transplant. And I just remember we're in it together, and we were just praying. And like you said earlier, Pam, like trusting that there's either a better place for him here on earth, or if God takes them to heaven and I'm left with a 5 and a 7-year-old, it will still somehow work out. But that's, I think, more of the caregiving that I've done, is more of like the hope and the prayer and the relationship part of it.
When Sarah did go through those elevator doors, I was there, standing there with my pastor, and I don't think I ever stopped and just prayed. It was just a continuous prayer. You're walking to get something, and you're just, all the time you're talking with God and this, that, and the other. But my mom got there, and I can remember hearing this woman was just sobbing so loudly. It was just horrible. And I realized it was myself. My mama had gotten there, and when she put her arms around me, she said, "Okay, your time to be the baby now. I'm taking care of you." And I just lost it. And I don't mean that I lost it like, let out a little bit. It was just these agonizing sobs. I couldn't even recognize myself. But it was so cleansing, too. It's like, okay, now we go. And the surgery was supposed to be 20-something hours, and it was much less than that. I think it was like 14 hours, something. So we were really blessed,
I want to ask now, your faith and your community really plays a role in how you're able to get through all of this. I was wondering, what other coping mechanisms did you, Shannon, obviously exercise, your ballet, your background, movement. Was that a way of how you were able to deal with the stress?
Kind of not, because I didn't have time to do those things, because I had a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and then a 7 and a 9-year-old. And I actually didn't have much time to myself, either taking care of Dylan or taking care of our children. So it was really, honestly, just the times with Dylan, the quiet times I had, and the times with community in both transplants. Just because I was still teaching too, and my clients were incredible. Just took care of me too, So I wish I could say, fitness got me through it a little bit too.
What are those like? You had those small moments, of like calm and peace. That's where you were able to sort of re-energize and just find a way to wake up the next day.
Like, I think in agreement with Pam, really just being honest all along the journey, because he was sick for a long time. When Liam was 6 months, his health started to decline pretty severely. And the first transplant was when Liam was 5. So he had been sick for a long time. So pretty much sick from like Liam's 6th month till Liam turned 7. And that was the end of the second transplant. So for 7 years, it was like a constant reoccurring for like 7 years. So I had to do check-ins with myself and just being honest with myself. I did lots of therapy too, spiritual therapy, talk therapy, friend therapy, and just making sure that I was honest with myself and feeling the emotions. Yeah, crying in tears really oddly, I don't understand how it helps, but there was a lot of tears, but it helped to cry and to really be real and honest with what I was feeling.
I mean, I think that's not surprising at all. I mean, I think crying and letting those emotions out is really helpful. And Pam, you just described that with your mom, just letting it all out and hearing you didn't realize you were even doing it.
Have you guys noticed that your coping mechanisms have changed over time as you've gone through these tougher situations? Or have you kind of remained true to how you've always handled problems that arise? Like, how has that changed things?
For me, it's been the same. I think it goes back to, in some ways, I feel like I've been prepared for this because I had a pretty intense childhood where it was a lot of trauma. And then I was a ballet dancer. Like what I went through in life kind of prepared me. So I'd already had, I guess, and I've always been emotional. I've always been like, can't hide my feelings. I have to address my feelings. Like, no poker face, type thing. So I think I'd always developed a pretty healthy way of walking through it. And it just kind of carried me through. The hardest part, though, honestly, was the extra layer of having children and going through the transplants back to back. So we went literally back to back. 2017 January was his first transplant. 2019 April was his second transplant. And we did a move to New York City, and there, it was just like, but I feel like I had a really good setup with how to help take care of myself and who to reach out to and how to do it for me.
I think mine has changed. I still power through situations, but like you, Shannon, I was a year after Sarah's transplant when I could really see her starting to get a little stronger. And on the anniversary from being listed to the transplant actually happening, because you were just so keyed up during that time, and I was just washing dishes, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was having a heart attack, like you said. And I went to the floor, and I went, okay, that passed. I must be okay. I stood up, did it again, and I had a physical when we came back, and my doctor had given me a card for a therapist, and she said, you just might need this. And I thought, I'll never find that card. I can't remember what I did with it. And I got up and went up there and found the card and called her. And how I knew that it wasn't physical, it was emotional, I don't know, but I did. And that card was just laying on the top for me to call. And I know that card had been gone. I don't know. I had dusted that table I don't know how many times, and there it was.
Oh.
So, but
Wow.
I've learned that I have guilt, and that also affects my decisions now. I feel guilty about pushing her as hard as I did. I feel guilty for not spending enough time with my sons, and just a lot of those things. And with the anxiety on top of it, you begin to go, okay, I have to think about being calm in situations. I can't just go be calm. I'm still nervous for that hemoptysis in the middle of the night, for a medicine that we don't have, and how are we getting it this time, and what do we have to do? And so I'm much more careful about who I bring into my circle now.
Yes.
I've noticed that I do that because you have to cancel a lot of things. I do handle things a little differently because I'm more cautious. I'm more careful about what I bring in and what I do. I don't want anything that's going to be another problem to deal with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It
I
really
think
does.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
journaling helped me too, like journaling and writing out feelings and emotions. And then as I was journaling, I also found myself like having to work through forgiveness for other people that have, you know, said I should be doing one thing or I should be, like those people that maybe mean well, but it doesn't come across very well.
That amazes me because I didn't have any of that.
That's good. Yeah.
That type of people in my life. I really didn't. And
Mm.
it hurts me to think that you had that extra layer of stress.
Yeah, it's crazy. My story is like, honestly, if it was just me, Dylan and I and our kids, and then our faith community and our friends, but the added layer of like the family situation, the family dynamics was really, that's what was the thing that was making me feel like I was dragging like 2,000 pounds.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you guys for opening up. I know that you just mentioned that like limiting your circle is one way you've sort of helped manage and coping. And here you are opening your heart to so many and really appreciate that. How do you both deal with Pam, maybe this is more for you right now, like that anxiety you keep waking up with? I mean, what I'm hearing is that you have a lot of medical trauma, a lot of PTSD from those experiences that keep sort of coming into your, like invading your thoughts. And how do you manage that, and are you getting help?
I am getting help. I have a wonderful therapist who helps me now. I did it, like I said, the year after when I had the anxiety attack, and then went back again this year. I thought I was good, and then it's amazing what can trigger something, and you think, I've got it. Like I said, she's doing so well now. And, why do I go back to that place? And it just knocks my feet out from under me for, a couple of days. And it's, I don't know, it was just so tense. And now and when the doctor told me PTSD, I was like, no. Yeah. And she said, I'm sorry, you hit all the markers, So
well, we have an episode where we talk about how people expect the other shoe to drop all the time. And I mean, you're describing where you're feeling that, where you're worried about that, you're scared of that. And Shannon, you can chime in too about, I didn't mean to say that you're not experiencing PTSD, because I'm sure you have that medical trauma as well in your life. But how do you manage that? How do you manage that, just, living day to day and trying to not, worry about that other shoe dropping?
I feel like I've learned, and still learning, I know little instances I have to go back to that place of, for me, trust in God and remembering just to live life in the present. For me, it's like being thankful for one day, because I feel like with my story growing up, and then my story specifically with Dylan, being married to him for 20 years, and all the life we've lived, I've just really learned to stay in the present and to just acknowledge my feelings in the present. So I know in the past, when I'll have that feeling of like nervousness of, like Dylan just recently went through radiation. He has skin cancer brought on by the medications for transplant. And it just was really a reminder to me, like I have the present, so however I act, however Dylan acts, like I just want to make sure that I'm loving the best of my ability, loving people, loving my husband, loving my kids to the greatest extent I can, because I'm not guaranteed to be alive tomorrow. So it's just, I think that's how I've kind of managed it, if that answers the question. Like,
you said something,
go ahead,
Shannon.
Pam.
When we went to the hospital with Sarah, I thought I need a way to reach out, to not just be me here alone in this room. I started posting on Facebook about what was going on. And I started out, I had like 70 friends or so. And then as Sarah was getting sicker, she said, reach out to your mom. Or can we reach out to your mom, because we're not hearing from you? So all of her friends became invited. the small town that I was in, they all got on board. Friends I hadn't heard of since we graduated in school in 76, they were all reaching out. What can we do? How can we help? And it was such a comfort to say, I really need some prayers today. I really need this or that. And it helped. And when we came back, I was able to write some long posts about different things that we went through. And then all of a sudden, when my daddy passed away, but 3 years ago, I've not been able to write. And I don't know why I can't. But it's just too much, you know. And when we came back, I told Sarah, I said, I need to pare my Facebook group down. You can post about yourself now. And then some people said, what happened? Did you and Sarah have a falling out? And I said, no, we're really strong, but she's her own person now.
Yeah.
And, oh, that's so brave of you, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't, because she and Todd were beginning to take over everything that needed to be done, her treatment. And that's when the anxiety of, oh, my God, I don't know her medicine list. I don't know her schedule for doctors and things. And I think that have been the thing that triggered this past year again, was I don't know. And I always needed to know. But it's a good thing that I don't need to, that they're handling it. And it's opening up adventures for me and my husband now. But I don't think you ever get over watching your child die. And that was really, really intense that last month before transplant.
You can't get over that. And I can't imagine, what that's like. You've dealt with so much trauma. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I lost a daughter when I was pregnant, 7.5 months. And I know what's worse,
Yeah.
So I'll take CF. I'll take, anything that comes along, as long as I've got her.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. So true. I was like, I'll take 5 years with Dylan. It doesn't matter how many years I have with him. Yeah.
It leaves a good feeling in your heart that if something were to happen to her daddy or to me, they've got it. They've got it. I don't have to worry about that. And again, to see her as healthy as she's ever been. She carts me around to doctors now.
I can't speak for Sarah, but sometimes we don't got it. But we want to try. Earlier, I asked you guys about roles in your relationships. Everybody's experience is different, but my husband, probably you were in the same situations where he had to make decisions when I was in a coma or so drugged out that, like in therapy, we talked about we had levels for my independence and whether I could make decisions, because as I got better, of course, I wanted to make my decisions. And that was hard for him because he had been so deeply involved with the doctors and, on the apps, my chart and all those things.
Yeah.
Like checking whether or not they were going to accept me into rehab after I went into respiratory failure was largely because my husband just found this beast within him to gather a storm of friends and family and doctors and make the case that I was going to. He sent videos and stuff of me dancing, on the ventilator and to the people. And when I got better, what did I do? I was like, thanks. Now I want to make all my own decisions. And he was like, wait, this is, confusing to me. And I think it can be hard to go through all those things and then how you come out of it and how you resolve it. Are we going to be normal now?
What is normal?
What's going to happen now? And, there's times when he's like, hey, did you check your insulin or did you do this? And I'm like, listen, I got it. Whether I got it or not, it's just
But
step off.
What's
Yeah.
nice is that you're sharing this with Stefan right now and
He's
doing
right
that
here.
at
He
the
knows.
I know, but that's really
He's
important.
probably
That's, I
over
mean,
there
I think,
shaking his head or
Yeah,
but
you know what? Like it's the caregiver episode, and
yeah,
I want to say how much Stefan has done both in the line of duty,
Mm-hmm.
but also learning how to navigate,
Yeah.
like me wanting to be fiercely independent even when I like can't walk, let me see that, or whatever. And but also just like my best friend, yeah, we've spent every holiday in the hospital, New Year's Eve, Christmas, 4th of July. I mean, all of them. Do you want to come say hi, hon?
hey,
This
Stefan.
is Stefan, my husband and my caregiver and my best friend.
Oh.
Can you still hear?
And he's also the podcast technician, as you all know.
Woohoo!
So,
But yeah, like, I mean,
I think
Andrea,
it's
thanks for
back
sharing that.
here.
And
Yeah.
Shannon and Pam, like, how does hearing that from Andrea, like, how does that resonate with you guys?
Actually, that brought up a couple memories. So glad you said that. I think it's more of a roles of like the father, because I didn't need to take care of Dylan quite the same way, but I stepped up to do different roles of a parent that he couldn't do. And actually, we all stepped up different roles. Like our oldest son kind of became a fatherly figure to our younger son, which, as you can imagine, did not go very well. When a parent is that sick, the whole dynamics of your family shifts. And that's even Dylan was an incredible of a father as one could be on 10% lung function. He was in it. He was parenting. He was playing video games, but there's just so much that he just physically wasn't able to do, and even emotionally didn't have the capacity for, because he was fighting so hard to stay alive so that he could be here when the kids were now 14 and 16, or 14 and almost 17. So I think after both transplants, the reentry season was challenging as far as the roles of parenting, and I had to do a lot of letting go, in the sense of let him be a parent too. Like, these are his children. They're not just my children. So I think for me, that was the hardest part of reentry into life, I think, normal life.
Can I add something to what you just said? I mean, I'm not Andrea's parent,
Right.
but when she was pretty impaired, and couldn't make decisions for herself, I was kind of thrust into like, oh, we're not partners now. I'm in a parenting role, and doctors are asking me to make decisions and things, or what she would want. And when she really isn't able to do that, I feel like, well, I have to speak for her. Maybe I'll just keep doing that. And then when she's better, I just keep speaking for her and wanting to make all the decisions and make sure she takes the right precautions and what she eats and exercise. And I have to ask myself, I just have to remind myself, I'm her partner. I'm not a parent. In fact, she's better at mothering me when I need it. So it
I
is
would
a
say
tough transition.
just when we get used to it, something happens and then we just starts to cross over again. And so I think especially with, not especially, but in my case, there has been a lot of back and forth. Oh, yeah, we have to kick you out now because we have to finish the episode on time.
Okay.
But it was lovely to have you on camera.
Yeah.
Bye,
Wonderful
Stefan.
to see you,
Bye,
Stefan.
Stefan.
Bye.
So on all of those topics, and kind of as a wrapping up question, um, I am not in the caregiver role. I am the receiver. So as a caregiver, is there anything that you wanted them to know, either like as you started taking on that caregiver role or as things evolved? Were there any misunderstandings that you wish they knew? Or is there just anything that you would want to give like advice to people? Really just anything that you wish people would know about caregiving?
For me, it always helped me to see her. So when she went into the hospital, I went. I slept in the chair next to the bed. And at night, she would reach for my hand, and that's how we'd go to sleep. She needed to feel that comfort, and I needed to hold on. You're not going anywhere.
Mm.
And so I think that's it. You just keep that connection, whether it's just holding a hand quietly or talking and talking and talking about whatever you need to talk about. You know, I'd find us discussing the most ridiculous things.
But so knowing that you're always there, like that's always by her side, and that's so touching.
Yeah, it just they take her away for a surgery or something, and I couldn't see her chest rise and fall, and I
Hmm.
that was just the hardest. Yeah, what's going on? I don't know, and I can't help.
Mm.
It's out of my hands. So yeah, I think, and as she's gotten better, and we've talked about that, she said I just never thought about that part of it.
Yeah.
And of course she didn't. She had a lot on her plate.
Yeah.
I think I totally agree with that. Just that you're always there. I'm always there for him. But we've said this before to each other, and I've said this to him also. But looking back on it, like oh, sorry, keep it short. But 2005, we got married, and I knew to some degree of what I was getting into, but not really. How could you really? And then I chose to go through in vitro. We had a lot of embryos that we adopted out, so too many embryos that we would ever have children, so we had to adopt out our DNA, and 2 transplants, 2 kids, COVID. There was February 2020, we had a scare of a potential 3rd transplant. But out of all of that, I would do it all over again. I would never say no. I would say yes to being married to him, all the ups and downs, all the things that as a little girl dreaming of her wedding, um, I never dreamed these things, but, he's worth it, and I would do it all again, all over again.
I was gonna
Wow.
say, you're about to make me cry.
Stop it. Stop
Sorry,
it.
I'm
Stop it.
sorry.
Stop it. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Just
It
true love of a spouse and a mom.
And I know he would do that for me too, so
Yeah.
I know it goes both ways.
Absolutely. Pam, you were going to say something, I think.
um, talking about how she feels about him, it's and that's how Sarah's Todd feels about her. And it just warms my heart to know that it's not a decision you would go back and do differently. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We think he's pretty cool.
Todd's cool.
Yes, he is.
So, and I mean, maybe just to, as to follow up on that. So, are there any other resources, your community, your faith, anything else like that you would recommend, like that other caregivers know about, especially if a loved one is sick and heading towards needing a transplant? Is there anything that you would do to help prepare, or other resources that maybe you reached out to that now you're more aware of? And maybe not.
Emory was where Sarah had most of her treatment stuff, and hospitalizations, and they were just and the CF center there, they were just excellent on connecting us with who we needed to be connected with because, you know, okay, yeah, it's lungs and then it's liver, and those are 2 different things, and one can affect the other, but they each need different kinds of medications, kinds of help.
Did they connect you? Because I think that's a really great idea, connecting to another caregiver who's going through something you are about to go through, who maybe went through that.
We were never connected with another caregiver, but we were in the CF community, and you got emails and texts and information at the CF center. When Sarah went into the CF center, you saw 5, 6, 7 doctors,
Mm.
depending on what they were doing. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. I would just piggyback off of that and just encourage someone in that state of their caregiving and they're being listed on transplant, their spouse or child or significant other, partner, um, I would just encourage them to reach out and ask questions like I did. For me, I'm a pursuer. So like throughout my childhood, I just always pursued mentors, women mentors. I knew that I couldn't do this alone, and I just would encourage them to know that the CF community is a very dear community that they don't want anyone to do this alone. So just even reaching out and even asking
Yeah.
the doctor or um, a friend or even social media, like who else has gone through this or going on the support groups. I would just say, I would highly encourage not to think that this person is alone because that's the first thing I did was I reached out like who has gone through this and I met up with someone that had gone through it and the doctors were talking me through every step of the way and one of the things that was really key, we had a friendship with one of the doctors, not Dylan's care doctor, but it was a different one. And she said that it's going to be okay, but right after the first transplant, it's normal for things to be a little rocky, like for his health to dip up and down, his oxygen levels, his lung function to dip up and down. And that was so encouraging. So I just would like kind of like I was Dylan's advocate, but also you have to be your own advocate and just reach out and ask for help because there are so many people in the CF community that are wanting to help and they're so kind.
I
You
think
know,
that's,
that
yep.
made me think of something. When Sarah was diagnosed, but a lot of the social media wasn't available. But at the newspaper, we had a PsyMed department, and I let them know about Sarah. And those guys were great with every new breakthrough, with everything that they were sending me the articles, and who you needed to get in touch with, and different things. So I had a kind of an in-house
So
group investigating things.
that's amazing. And I was going to say that is like other journalists and people who like to investigate things is probably a great resource. I was going to also echo Shannon, the fact that the CF Foundation has lots of great resources, lots of community blogs and forums. Cystic Fibrosis Research Institute, CFRI, also
Yeah.
has incredible resources for families and care groups and retreats and for spouses, caregivers, for patients. So I think that those are the places that, I would also recommend that people go to where there's a really robust CF community ready to help and ready to support.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up. And thank you for showing your emotions and for, being authentic here on this podcast. It's sometimes hard for us to shift gears, but we're thinking we'll shift gears and try to end it with some humor. So what we're going to do is that each of us is going to ask somebody else about their two truths and a lie, and then everyone else can sort of jump in as well. First, I'm going to start with um, Shannon asking about your two truths and a lie, and we're gonna all try to guess it, but I guess I'm gonna be the first guesser.
Okay. So I tell my two truths and a lie.
Yeah, in
Okay.
whatever order.
Okay. So I've hiked the Grand Canyon rim to rim, north to south. I've danced for a month in China and I've swam in the Dead Sea.
Wow, because all those things seem like you love traveling, and so China, Dead Sea, the Grand Canyon all meet that, and I would say dancing is what you do, so I can see that you were dancing in China, but not for a year. So I'm gonna say
Oh, a
that's
month,
a
just
lot.
a
A
month,
month. Oh, I thought you said a
month.
year. Okay.
Yeah.
So just a
Month.
month. So now that seems more plausible. So now we're back to you didn't
You made
swim
it
in the Dead
tougher.
Sea.
Shoot.
So I said you didn't swim in the Dead Sea. Is that right?
No, I did swim in the Dead Sea.
I would have guessed the same as you, so I knew I was wrong.
I j I just recently went out to the Grand Canyon, and I'm thinking, no way.
Rim to rim. That does seem crazy.
Sorry, Shannon, that's hard.
Well, I'm pretty athletic, so I could do
Uh,
it. It's like
there
a
you go.
12 I think it's a 12 to 18-hour hike, but
Mm.
no, that's on our bucket list. Dylan and I wanna hike the
Oh,
Grand
that
Canyon.
would
We
be
haven't
I
done
love
great.
it
that.
yet.
That's a
Yeah.
great that's a great one. That's a great one. All right. So now Shannon, you're gonna ask Lauren.
Lauren.
Lauren's gonna give you
Okay.
your two truths and a lie.
All right.
Yeah, so mine are very random. I'm so sorry. So my first one is I can name every single Pokemon in existence, which is 1,025 Pokemon. My second one is I once got offered a job from a fake Santa at a Christmas party. And my third one is I rode in a duck boat tour in Seattle before they shut it down in 2020 for it being too dangerous.
Goodness.
I'll just say the first one is the lie.
Okay, does anyone else want to guess before I reveal?
Well,
I agree with
1,000
Shannon.
things of anything to memorize is a lot. So
Which you
I
probably can.
second
yeah, I agree with Shannon. And I know what happened in 2020. So you definitely, I'd love to hear more about your duck boat experience, though.
Yes.
But it's not that. That's the truth.
Okay. So the lie is that I rode in a duck boat tour before it closed down in 2020.
Oh, shoot. Oh, I thought you said
Oh.
you work.
I had never been in Seattle except for like this past year. So, yeah, that one was a complete lie. Thank you, Spencer, who is my fiance. He came up with that one. He'll be really proud that we stumped you guys.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'll ask Pam, what are your two truths and a lie?
I taught nurses how to access a port. I was neighbor to a munchkin from the Wizard of Oz, and I graduated with a journalism degree.
So I'm going to
That's-
guess the Wizard of Oz one because you stumbled on your word. That's the only reason I'm guessing.
Actually, my lie is that I graduated with a journalism degree. I came through the race
Oh.
without.
Yeah.
I
your
See, you were
grandfather-
talking about
started at
writing, so I
14.
was like, that's got to be correct. Well,
Yeah,
Good
you can do
job.
that without a journalism degree. That's a good one. And I can believe the first one you were teaching young nurses how to access ports. That's, we've seen that. That's great. And that's very kind of you. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And the part about, yeah.
And the little munchkin, he was in the Wizard of Oz and stood behind Judy Garland.
Wow.
And
awesome. I'm
there
going to
was,
have to go rewatch.
There was a man and his sisters. All three of them were in the Wizard of Oz. He was one of the lollipop kids, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
I love Judy
That's
Garland.
very cool. So when I was growing up, on the end of our street was the lion's brother. So,
No
Wizard of
way.
Oz. Yeah. But
Wow.
anyway, that's amazing. So the Munchkin's next door
So
neighbor.
cool.
That's really cool. All right. Then now we have Pam asking Andrea.
Okay,
All right.
Pam. I was in an award-winning marching band in high school. I had an idea for dessert that I gave to my chef friend, which ultimately won a Michelin star. And I had a 1940s themed wedding with a 14-piece swing band.
That's a tough one.
I'm going to guess dessert.
Dessert?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the lie. But I
I was going to say,
That's
I
the
knew the
mama.
wedding one.
Yeah. Good job.
And I
Good
do have a
job.
chef friend.
And the Michelin stars only just recently came to Boston,
Well, it didn't say.
but I
it
guess
was
it could have
about-
been anywhere else. Yeah.
There's a new show about restaurants that are trying to get a Michelin star, and they have the Michelin judges on, but with their voices disguised and facing away from the camera. It's like they work for the CIA.
Oh.
They can't tell people what they do. Anyway,
And I've watched.
That was good.
I've seen pictures from Andrea's wedding. Fabulous. Could you imagine the 1940s?
Oh, yeah,
No, that would just
Oh.
be so cool.
Mm.
So cool.
yeah, as a creative director, I will say that I may have over creative directed it, but it was fabulous.
Oh.
It looks fabulous. All right, Andrea, are you going to guess mine? Okay.
Let's have at it.
I worked at Sears in the drapery and linens department, where I also fell off the top of the escalator when I was younger. I owned a motorcycle in college and didn't wear a helmet. and I recently touched an elephant's butt.
Sears.
No, that's true.
I was gonna say, I
Then
wanted
it's
that one to be so true.
I don't know if you can say it.
What did you
Then
say?
it's
Elephant butt.
Pam put down elephant's butt, which is also, that's
I
not the
was gonna
lie.
say it's
I
the
did
other
that.
one because the elephant butt is the red herring.
I love
did
that she
I
wrote down elephant's butt.
She wrote down elephant. You just want, but you didn't say it. You couldn't say butt. I can tell, Pam. No,
God.
I did have a motorcycle in college, but I always wore a helmet.
Got it.
All
I
right.
could see that.
Just trying
You
to throw you
seem
guys
like
off.
you would be a very safe
But I
person.
did fall off the top of the escalator, and
I don't even
and
know
Too
how
bad
you
you
did
didn't have your
that.
helmet.
yeah, no helmet there. Thankfully, I didn't land on my head. All right.
Yeah.
Well, now it's time for you guys to sing It's a Long Story. And in the spirit of, if you've listened to our intro, you've heard my cousin singing the song to It's a Long Story. And he ends with, It's a long story. So we would love for you to sing that. And maybe we can start with Shannon, since she doesn't want to do it.
Auto
You're back
tune.
at it.
Yeah. Okay. Ready, set,
Ready?
go?
Do it.
Oh, yeah. It's a long story.
Beautiful.
That's
Perfect.
No fair.
You got Pam. It's on you now.
Oh,
It's a long story.
That was
those are
perfect.
both
Sorry.
awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Yay.
So we're going to wrap things up now, and we'll let our messages from our listeners to their caregivers take us out. So until next time.
Get a little older.
Live a little bolder.
To my caregiver, my rock, my reason, there are no words big enough to hold the gratitude that I feel for you. You gave me everything, your time, your sleep, your dreams, so that I could have another chance at life. When people told you to give up, you stood taller. When I couldn't fight for myself, you fought harder. You believed in me when believing was the hardest thing to do. You carried me through the darkest nights and never stopped seeing a future for me, even when mine seemed to disappear. Because of your love, your sacrifice, and your relentless faith in what was possible, I am still here today. I am breathing, living, standing, and exploring. I'm thriving. Thank you for choosing hope. Thank you for choosing me.
To those
I love
doing
you.
it without a caregiver who often go it alone, I see you. It's not easy, and you're amazing.
I'm recording
Love, love, love.
this message from my wife, Shannon. This is Dylan, and I want to thank you for being my caregiver, for all that you have poured into me in terms of time, effort, energy, love. I thank you for caring for me, but I thank you even more for choosing me. And we've now been married 20 years. I want to thank you for choosing to live life with me despite all odds and circumstances and difficulty. I am so humbled and honored that you love me and to get to love you. So I just want to thank you beyond words. I am absolutely floored that you chose me, and I want to love you as best I can and do better each day. I appreciate you so much and love you more than you ever know.
Corey,
Thank you.
it's been a decade since we vowed to take care of each other in sickness and in health. Unlike most couples, that line carried more weight for us. But since our very first night together, you showed me that cystic fibrosis doesn't scare you. You saw me, not the potential burden of a life-loving someone with a chronic illness. Years ago, I mentioned something to your mom about how being with someone who has CF comes with a lot of responsibility. She shrugged and told me that life comes with all kinds of uncertainty and that you could handle it. Her confidence in your ability to take on this life together always pops into my mind anytime that I think that maybe I'm too much. She was right. You have always been in this with me. You've held my hand through hospital stays, reminded me to eat, encouraged me through pregnancy, and now, 6 years after starting Trikafta, you weather the storm with me as I continue to work through mental health struggles. Thank you for believing that a full life together was possible, even when my future was very uncertain. I love you and the life we've built.
Hi,
Love,
my
Corey.
name is Beth. I'm 45 with CF, and I want to put out a message of gratitude to my boyfriend. Since he came into my life has gotten so much easier in terms of taking care of myself. He helps me with my nutrition. He helps me with cooking. He helps me with grocery shopping. He helps me take my medicines on time and organize them so that I don't run out. He makes sure I get a lot of sleep and reminds me to take a nap if I am overtired. He helps me balance my energy so that I can do the things that I love and not spend time on things that I don't love. He is really quite wonderful and didn't know anything about this life of CF or transplant or anything before he met me. Thank you. I love you.
We are working hard to provide meaningful information to a deserving CF community, information you won't find anywhere else. If you'd like to help us grow, we'd greatly appreciate it if you would follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, so you never miss an episode. Want to go all in? Leave us a rating and a review. It helps people find us and makes a big difference. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend, family member, caregiver, or provider who might also want to hear it. This helps you, it helps them, and it helps us spread the word to those who need to hear it most. It's a Long Story is produced by me, Andrea Gavin Becker, and is hosted by Dr. Ahmet Uluer and Lauren Harvey. Additional editing and production support is provided by the team at Resonate Recordings. Until next time,
Get a little older.
Live a little bolder.
It's a long story.
Resonate.